Okay, well, Hag Tu B'Shvat Sameach to everyone. Today is, it is Tuesday night. It is the 15th of Shvat. This is the House of Seven Beggars, therefore this must be the Shul Study Hall. And I want to welcome everybody for our Tu B'Shvat study. So let me see what's going on here in the chat room, if I can remember what mouse I'm working with here. Okay, so we have, Daniel was with us at the very beginning of the show. Unfortunately, he had a rough day today. He had a long day. He said he was very tired, and he was just going to have to call it the night and have to go to bed, so he was ready for tomorrow. But we're glad he stopped in at least to say hello and let us know that he was, with us in his heart. Okay. Miriam is with us. Yair, of course, Yair is with us. Benjamin is with us. John D. And, of course, Shoshi and Shlomo. So, okay. My son just came in about 15 minutes ago and brought in the mail with him. And with him in the mail was a couple of surprises. Let me show you what we got here. So the first one we got was this book, which is called When a Jew Celebrates. And I actually shouldn't say that it was sent to me. It was probably sent for Zeta, because we had an idea for a show, and we were thinking, well, okay, this might be a good resource. And it's a used book, but I'll tell you what, I'm kind of really enamored with this for the fact that, the book came out in 1971, which was, I was in high school, but, and this one was, belonged to Elisa Schmuckler. And when she got the book, she was in the 5th grade. Her name is in here. And Alicia is a young woman now, and we're very glad to have her book with us. And we're going to see what we can do to track her down and let her know that her book is now part of the Shul library, and we are very honored to have it. Okay, so along with that, I see Max has joined us. And along with that, I got another book. This one I believe is meant for me, which is called Inside Their Homes, a young man's warm and personal encounters with the world of Torah greatness. So we have this book. And again, I haven't had a chance to even look at it, though. I kind of thumbed through it real quick and saw some of the pictures in here, and I said, this is definitely a book that is going to be worth reading. So, this is going to, this will be my Shabbat reading until we get it finished. So, Miriam, actually, yes, we are going, I'm going to try and find her to see if we can track her down and just kind of let her know that we have her book as part of our library, and we're very glad to have it. So, okay. So since it is Tu B'Shvat, why not delve right into when a Jew celebrates? Why not? Because before we start our study, since it is Tu B'Shvat, let's find out a little bit more about Tu B'Shvat. Okay, so we're reading from the book When a Jew Celebrates, Elisa Schmuckler's copy, and here's what it says about Tu B'Shvat. And it's actually, I have a number of books that actually has a little bit of something in there. There is not a lot about Tu B'Shvat written in the various books that I have, because I think they really counted as a kind of a minor holiday. But this book does a very, very good teaching on Tu B'Shvat. So let's delve into this. It says the Jewish calendar, with all its holidays, is tied to the cycle of growing things. To more than any other green thing, the religion of the Jews is tied to trees, especially to fruit trees. The tree is not just another plant in the Torah. It is the symbol of life, the symbol of man, the symbol of the Jewish people. According to the Torah, God put two trees in the middle of Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, the tree of knowledge and the tree of life, or the Eitz Chaim, which is actually what we call those rollers on the Torah. The wooden rollers are called Eitz Chaim, trees of life. Although war was part of everyday life in ancient days, Jews had to follow special rules even in war. The Torah says that Jews cannot make war on trees. When they besieged the city, even if they needed trees to build war machines, they could not cut down fruit trees. And the prophet Isaiah said, "As the days of a tree, so shall be the days of my people." The special regard of the Jews for trees may have developed because they lived in a hot climate. There, trees are particularly precious. In the wilderness, a tree means water. A tree means food. A tree means shade. Any of these may mean life. And when trees are cut down, the desert creeps in. The land of Israel was a land of milk and honey in the days of the Bible. It became a land of rock and sand after the Jews were driven from the land and the trees were cut down. And remember, we talked about this last week during our Torah study, that when the righteous man enters the land, blessing comes into the land, and when the righteous man leaves the land, the blessing leaves with them. So much so for the people. It is again becoming a land of milk and honey, and largely because we have been planting trees there for more than, at this time in 1971, 50 years. But plants die in the autumn. They die a natural death, or they are cut down for food. Newer plants appear in the spring to take their place. But trees do not die. When the cold rains come, Most lose their leaves and appear to sleep for a few months. But the sturdy trunk stands, and the roots, deep underground, hide the life of the tree. In the spring, the tree awakens. The cycle of green and brown, of life and sleep and awakening goes on year after year. Most trees live much longer than most men. Trees live for 50, 100, even 1,000 years. The Jew sees in these trees the continuing goodness of God and the continuing duties of man. Man must plant trees and care for them, having faith that God will reawaken the trees each year, long after the men who planted them are dead. The Talmud tells the story of the old man who was seen planting a carob tree as the king rode by. "Old man," the king called, "how many years will it be for that tree to bear fruit?" "Perhaps 70 years, the old man said. "How old are you?" the king asked. 70 years, the old man replied. "Do you really expect to be alive to eat the fruit of the tree?" the king asked. "No," the old man said. "But just as I found the world fruitful when I was born, so I plant trees that later generations may eat thereof." In fact, Jews consider the planting of trees so important that Rabbi Johanan ben Zakkai said, "If you should be standing with a young tree in your hand when the Mashiach arrives, first finish planting the tree, then go and greet Mashiach." Shevat, the Hebrew month that comes around February, I would say that, is the beginning of spring in the land of Israel. The 3 months before Shevat, Cheshvan, Kislev, Tevet, are months when there is much rain. The rains lessen in Shevat. The sun comes out, and the sap begins to rise in the fruit trees. Tiny leaf buds appear on the trees. The dark green of the Israeli winter begins to lighten to the bright greens of spring. Almost overnight, the almond tree, called the quick ones, burst into white blossoms. This is a time for rejoicing, a time for celebrating the new year of the trees. Rosh Hashanah, Le'ilanot. It falls on the 15th day of Shevat. It is called Hamisha Asar B'Shavat, or Tu B'Shavat. The Hebrew letter Tet equals 9, and Vav equals 6, which spells 2, add up to 15. 6 weeks after the winter holiday Hanukkah, it is time to look forward to the coming of spring. Why does the calendar have a new year for trees? Because the Torah has a law about them. It says, "Do not eat the fruit of a tree during the first 3 years. The 4th year, give its fruit to the priest as a gift to God, and thanks for all the tree will bring you. From the 5th year on, you may eat its fruit." But who can tell exactly what day a tree is 4 years old or 5? That's why the 15th of Shavat is the New Year of the trees. On that day, they are all a year older. It's really the birthday we give to the trees. Just as the tree is different from all other growing things, so is its holiday different from all other Jewish holidays. Tu B'Shvat is not mentioned in the Bible. Even the Talmud lists this holiday only as a date in the calendar. There are no special prayers for Tu B'Shvat in the prayer book. There are no special laws for observing Tu B'Shvat. It is almost just another day in the calendar. Almost, but not really. For it is the day when we get to show our love not only for the trees, but for the land of Israel. So there are special customs for celebrating on this day, some of them quite new. One of the oldest customs is mentioned in the Talmud. It says that on Tu B'Shvat, a young cedar was planted for every boy born during the year. A young cypress was planted for every girl. And when the young people grew up and came to be married, branches from their cedars and cypress were cut and woven together to form their chuppah. We don't know much more about Tu B'Shvat in olden days, so you might think it would have disappeared from the calendar of Jewish holidays when the Jews were driven from the land of Israel. In time, most Jews found themselves in cold northern climates, and if you want to see cold northern climates, you can just go to my Facebook page and see me digging out from the big storm that we just had. And already, Shoshi and Shlomo, I know. Compared to you guys, it's nothing. Okay, so there, Tu B'Shvat came in midwinter. And there, trees were not a matter of life and death. In any case, it was February. Trees were bare on Tu B'Shvat, and the earth was iron hard. You better believe it. But the Jews did not forget Jerusalem and the Holy Land and the trees. They remembered the land that had been promised them and from which they were driven. They remembered its trees. They remembered Tu B'Shvat. The custom grew to celebrate this holiday by eating the fruits that grew in what was then called Palestine. They ate figs, dates, raisins, almonds. They ate sweet pods of the carob tree called boxer. They ate the fruit of these and other trees, remembered the land, and recalled its glories. In some communities, just as the poor were given ma'ot chitim, money for wheat on Pesach, so were they given ma'ot perot, money for fruit, on Tu B'Shvat, that they might too have fruit and remember the Holy Land. And that was all Tu B'Shvat was for centuries. A quiet, pleasant midwinter day when northern Jews remembered. Then the first modern Jewish settlers went to rebuild the land. They were followed by more waves of Jewish settlers. They wanted to be farmers as well as city people, so they went to till the soil, others to build cities. But the land was dry and rocky. In many places it would not hold water. Its trees had been cut down, so its soil was bad. Again, trees became a symbol for the Jewish people. For trees are as important to the success of Israel as its waters, as our factories, as our people. Trees turn the desert into green land, cause water to stay in the earth, feed and shelter people. Trees planted years ago give lumber today. So Tu B'Shvat, the New Year of the Trees, became not only the day when trees were again planted in the Holy Land, but the day when their importance to the state of Israel is celebrated. And the people who are rebuilding the land recognize the importance of trees. The new settlers made Tu B'Shvat a day to celebrate by planting trees. Each year now, many Israelis, particularly children, plant trees on the sand dunes, in the marshes, or wherever they are needed. They are fulfilling the prophecy of Isaiah. They shall build up the old ruins. They shall raise up what was destroyed. They shall make the destroyed cities new and rebuild the ruins of many generations. All over the world, too, Jews pay for the planting of trees in Israel. The Jewish National Fund makes it possible to give money to our country and know that your tree will be planted where it is needed in Israel. Because the tree is the symbol of continuing life, it is done in memory of those who died. It's as if their spirits continue in the continuing life of the trees. Often people will get together and plant a whole forest. One of the most famous was begun on Tu B'Shvat, 1949. A forest was planted in Israel to mark the 6 million Jews killed by the Nazis. Today, there are 6 million trees planted in this forest along the road to Jerusalem. The trees will be forever green, and our 6 million brothers will never be forgotten. That was one forest begun on Tu B'Shvat. There are many more. And we continue to plant trees to mark a death and a birth, to celebrate a simcha, but mostly we plant trees on Tu B'Shvat to show our faith. We plant trees whose fruit we will not eat. We plant trees in whose shade we will not sit. We plant trees we may never see. We plant them in faith that God will provide the rain and the sun in proper measure for the tree to grow. We plant them in faith that God will see to it that there will be people to eat the fruit and enjoy the shade and welcome the sight of the green trees. To plant a tree is to say, I believe. I believe that we will overcome our problems. I believe that the world can and will get better. I believe that the day will come when, as the Bible says, everyone will be able to sit under his own fig tree and be unafraid. The man who fears that the world will end tomorrow or next year does not plant trees. On Tu B'Shvat, we celebrate the New Year of the trees and our own belief in the future of the world. On Tu B'Shvat, tied so closely to Israel and its feast, we celebrate the unbreakable bond between Jews everywhere and the land of Israel. On Tu B'Shvat, we mark the oneness of the Jewish people. And again, that is from the book When a Jew Celebrates. Okay. So, I guess we are here to study Talmud. We are starting a new Megillat. This is we are in the PDF on page 380. We are in the Mishna, Megillat. The Megillat Ma'aserot, chapter 1. Okay, and as we do when we study the Talmud, because the Talmud is mainly comprised of the Torah, we say the blessing, and the blessing is the same as the study of Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. And as Zeta would say, Amen. Okay. Mishnah 1. They have laid down a general rule concerning tithes. Whatever is considered food and is guarded and grows out of the soil is liable to tithes. And they have further laid down another rule as regards tithes. Whatsoever is considered food both at the beginning and at the conclusion of its growth, even though he withholds it from use so as to enable the quantity of food to increase, is liable to tithe, whether it be gathered in its earlier or later stages of ripening, whereas whatsoever is not considered food in the earlier stages of its growth, but only in its later stages, is not liable to tithe until it can be considered food. Mishnah 2. When do the fruits become like? And isn't it interesting that this falls on Tu B'Shvat? And here we are talking about things that grow on trees and food and stuff like that. When do the fruits become liable to tithe? Figs, from the time they are called bohal. Okay, so let's see if we get an explanation in this bohal. The commencement of ripening is known as bohal. Rashi, from the time their tips become white. Okay, I can go along with that. Not that it matters to them. Grapes and wild grapes in the early stages of ripening. Red berries and mulberries after they become red. Similarly, all red fruits after they become red. Pomegranates are liable to tithe after their core becomes pulpy. Dates after they begin to swell. Peaches after they acquire red veins. Walnuts from the time they form drupes, D-R-U-P-E-S. I know I'm probably slaughtering that word, which is literally they form a store when the food is actually separated from the outer shell and gives the appearance of something laid in a storehouse. Okay. Rabbi Judah says, walnuts and almonds, after their kernel skins have been formed. Mishnah 3. Carobs, as we've just been talking about. Also the almonds too. Carobs are subject to tithes after they form dark spots. Similarly, all black finished fruits after they form dark spots. Pears and Christamian pears. Okay. Quinces and medlars are liable to tithes after their surface begins to grow smooth. Similarly, all white fruits after their surface begins to grow smooth. Fenugreek, which we talked about last week, and we found is actually a natural herbal cure, is liable to tithe when it is so far advanced that the seeds can be planted and they will grow. Grain and olives after they are 1/3 ripe. Mishna 4. With regard to vegetables, cucumbers, gourds, watermelons, cucumber melons, apples, and citrons are liable to tithe whether gathered in the earlier or later stages of ripening. Rabbi Shimon exempts the citron in the earlier stages. The condition in which bitter almonds are liable to tithe is exempt in the case of sweet almonds, and the condition in which sweet almonds are liable to tithe is exempt in the case of bitter almonds. Mishnah 5. When are fruits fixed to be tithed? Cucumbers and gourds are liable to tithe after their fringe falls off, or if this does not fall off, after the fruit has been piled up. Melons so soon as they become smooth, and if they have not become smooth, after they are stored away. Vegetables which are tied in bundles, from the time they are tied up in bundles. If they are not tied up in bundles, after the vessel has been filled with them. If the vessel is not filled with them after there has been gathered all that he wishes to gather. Produce which is packed in a basket is liable to tithe after it has been covered. If it is not to be covered, after the vessel is filled. If a vessel is not to be filled, after he has gathered all he requires. When does the regulation apply? When a man brings the produce to the market. But when he brings it to his own house, he may make a chance meal of it until he reaches his house. Mishnah 6. Dried split pomegranates, raisins, and carobs are liable to tithe after they are stacked. Onions after they are stripped. If they are not stripped, after they are stacked. Grain as soon as the pile has been evened. If it is not evened, after it has been stacked. Pulse, after it has been sifted. If it is not sifted, after the pile has been evened. Even after the pile has been evened, he may, without tithing, take of the tiny ears from the sides of the piles, and from that which is still in the husk, and eat. Mishnah 7. Wine. Wine is liable to tithe after it has been skimmed. But although it has been skimmed, he may take from the upper wine press or from the duct and drink thereof without giving tithe. Oil after it has dripped into the trough, but even after it has dripped, he may still take of the oil from the bale, or from the pulp under the press, or from between the boards of the press without tithing, and put the oil on a cake or plate, but not in a dish or stew pot, while the contents thereof are boiling. Rabbi Judah says he may put it into anything, save into that which contains vinegar or brine. Mishnah 8, a cake of pressed figs. We've talked about this several times. A cake of pressed figs is liable to tithe from the moment its surface has been smoothed. It may be smoothed with the juice of untithed figs or grapes. But Rabbi Judah forbids this. If it is smoothed with grapes, it is not susceptible to receive Levitical uncleanness. Rabbi Judah, however, says it is susceptible. Dried figs are liable to tithe after they have been trodden, and figs stored in a bin are liable to tithe after they have been pressed. If one was treading the figs into a jar or pressing them in a store bin, and the cask was broken, or the store bin opened, it is not allowed to make a chance meal of them. Rabbi Jose, however, permits this. And again, good group tonight. And again, we see a dissenting opinion. Okay. We are on Aserot, chapter 2, Mishnah 1. If a man was passing through the street, and said, "Take ye of my figs," one may eat and be exempt from tithe. Therefore, if they brought them into their house, they must give the priestly due as if they were certainly untithed. If he said, "Take ye and bring into your house," they may not make a chance meal of them. Therefore, if they brought them into their house, they need tithe them only as demeh. Okay, and we've talked about demeh before. If I can keep this thing from scrolling around on me. Okay. Mishnah 2. If men were sitting in a doorway or a shop, and he said, "Take ye of my figs," they may eat and be exempt from tithes. But the owner of the doorway or the owner of the shop is liable to give tithe. Rabbi Judah, however, exempts him, unless he turns his face or changes the place where he was sitting and selling. Mishnah 3. If a man brings fruit from Galilee to Judea, or if he goes up to Jerusalem, he may eat of them until he arrives at the place to which he intends to go. And so, also, if he returns. Rabbi Meir, however, says he may eat only until he reaches the place where he intends to rest on the Sabbath. But peddlers who go about the city may eat until they reach the place where they intend staying overnight. Rabbi Judah says the first house he reaches is his house. In other words, the first house that he reaches, he is to consider that his house, and he has to stop. Mishnah 4. If one set aside the terumah from fruits before their work was finished, Rabbi Eliezer says it is forbidden to make a chance meal of them, but these sages permit it, except when it is in a basket of figs. If one set aside the terumah from a basket of figs, Rabbi Shimon permits it, but the sages forbid it. Mishnah 5. If a man says to his fellow, here is this Isar. Okay, so Isar. Of course, it will refer me to something else. Okay, so here is this Isar. Give me 5 figs for it. He may not eat of them until he has tithed them. So Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Judah says, if he ate them one by one, he is exempt. But if several together, he is liable to tithe. Rabbi Judah said, it happened in a rose garden in Jerusalem that there were figs being sold, 3 or 4, for an Isar. And neither terumah nor tithe was ever given from it. Mishnah 6. If a man said to his fellow, here is an Isar for 10 figs, which I may select for me, he may select and eat. If he said, for a cluster of grapes, which I may select for me, he may pick grapes from the cluster and eat. If he said, for a pomegranate, which I may select for me, he may split the pomegranate and eat a slice. If he said, for a watermelon, which I may select for me, he may slice and eat. If he, however, said, for these 20 figs, or for these 2 clusters, or for these 2 watermelons, he may eat that in the usual way, and be exempt from tithe, because he bought them whilst they were still attached to the ground. And again, we talk about this whole thing about the nuance of the language, stating intent and so on. And how we say it is very important, which teaches us how careful we have to be with our speech, not only in what we say about what we are gaining or stuff like that, but especially what we say about other people. Mishnah 7. If a man hired a laborer to help him harvest figs, and he, the laborer, said unto him, on condition that I may eat the figs, he may eat them and be exempt from tithe. If he, however, said, on condition that I and my son may eat, or that my son may eat of them in lieu of my receiving a wage, he may eat and be exempt from tithe. But if his son eats, he is liable. If he said, on condition that I may eat of them during the time of the fig harvest, and after the fig harvest, during the time of the fig harvest he may eat and be exempt from tithe. But if he eats after the fig harvest, he is liable, since he does not eat of them after the manner prescribed by the Torah. Okay, so this begs just taking a look at. Since his status is then not one of a workman, he eats on the basis of a condition, and hence it is like a sale. Oh, okay. That makes sense. This is the general rule. One who eats after the manner prescribed by the Torah is exempt from tithe. One who does not eat after the manner prescribed by the Torah is liable. Mishnah 8. If a man is doing hired labor among poor figs, he may not eat of good figs. If he is doing hired labor among good figs, he may not eat of poor figs. But he may restrain himself until he reaches the place where there are better figs, and then he may eat. If a man exchanges with his fellow either his fresh figs for his fresh figs, his dried figs for his dried figs, his fresh figs for his dried figs, then he is liable to give tithe. Rabbi Judah, however, says, if a man exchanges his figs for his fellows, fresh figs, he is liable, but if for the others dried figs, he is exempt. All right. Okay, we've about reached our halfway point. We will pause here to take a quick break, take care of a little business, get something to drink, whatever else we may need to do. And we will be back in 6. Let me get everything queued up here. Okay, let's stop that right there, and let's start these things both at the same time. And we will be back in 6 minutes. Okay, we're going to try this one more time. Okay, let's see if I can get these things coordinated here. Okay, here we go.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies. Everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. show starts in 4 minutes. The show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. The show starts in 1 minute. And now, on with the show.
Okay, and we are back. Okay, so I was catching up with the chat room here, and John D makes an interesting comment here. I know he's saying it in jest, but he has a good point here. He says, "Can a man just not say anything? Keep his mouth shut? Makes you want to be silent in case." Well, as we are aware that everything that's connected with terumah or tithe or whatever, there has to be, just as when we bring an offering to the Beit HaMikdash, on the altar and stuff, there has to be a public declaration made. So anything like this, there has to be, a person has to state what his intention is. He has to make a public statement of it. He can't just keep his mouth shut. So, again, he's declaring what his intent actually is. So that's why you can't just keep your mouth shut, John. Yeah. You would think that would work, but no. So there you go. Okay, so we were on Ma'asarot, chapter 3, Mishnah 1. Okay, so here we go. If a man was taking his figs through his courtyard to be dried, his children and the other members of his household may eat of them and be exempt from tithe. The laborers who work with him may eat and be exempt, so long as he is not obliged to maintain them. If, however, he is obliged to maintain them, in other words, if they are, slaves or a hired laborer who actually lives on the property or something like that, where a man is obligated to provide him with housing and so on and so forth, so long as he is not obliged to maintain them. If, however, he is obliged to maintain them, they may not eat. Okay. If a man brought his laborers into the field, so long as he is not obliged to maintain them, they may eat and be exempt from tithes. If, however, he is obliged to maintain them, they may eat of the figs one at a time, but not from the basket, nor from the large vessels, nor from the drying shed. Excuse me. If a man hired a workman to prepare his olives, and he said to him, on condition that I may eat the olives, he may eat of them one at a time and be exempt from tithes. If, however, he ate several together, he is libeled. If he had been hired to weed out onions, he made, and he said to him, on condition that I may eat the vegetables, he may pluck leaf by leaf and eat without tithing. If, however, he ate several together, he is liable to give tithe. So as long as you eat one at a time. If a man found cut figs on the road, or even beside a field where cut figs had been spread out to dry, and so too, if a fig tree overhangs the road, the figs were found beneath it, they are allowed as not coming within the law of robbery, and they are exempt from tithe. Okay, so if these things are found, okay, and this goes back to the whole forgotten sheaf and things like that. These ones overhanging, they're actually outside of the legal property, and he finds these things. He's not actually committing robbery. They are exempt from tithe. Olives and carobs, however, are liable. If a man found dried figs, then if the majority of people had already trodden their figs, he is liable to tithe. But if not, he is exempt. If a man found slices of fig cake, he is liable to tithe, since it is obvious they came from something. The work in connection therewith is fully completed. Okay, it's been cut. Everything that had to be done to it has been done to it. Okay, so it's obvious this thing is finished, because nobody would cut a fig cake if it wasn't finished. At least you wouldn't think so anyway. With carobs, if they had not yet been on the top of the roof, he may take some down for the cattle, and be exempt from tithe, since he may return that which is left over. Pardon me, I have a little bit of a cold. Okay. And just as a side note, I just have to say something about this today. Where I live here, in this area that I live in, I have fantastic neighbors. All of us around here, we watch out for each other. We check in on each other. In fact, the other day I had a meeting yesterday, and so I couldn't get the tractor out until after I finished my meeting with my client. And in the middle of my meeting, somebody's at the door, and I'm going, who in the heck would trod up that unplowed driveway in 2 feet of drifted snow up to my door to knock on my door? So I open the door, and there's my neighbor Dan, and he says, I see you haven't got your tractor out. He says, do you need some help? And I said, no, I'm just waiting for my meeting to get over with, and I'm going to go out and crank up the tractor and get the driveway plowed. But, he checked. He checked to see if we were okay, if we needed some help or stuff like that. And that's pretty much, we all do that. If somebody, if I'm out doing, if I'm out plowing or something like that, and I see my neighbor doesn't have his, drive plowed, I'll go over there and plow his, and, or somebody's out, shoveling or something, and we'll go out and we'll help each other out and stuff like that. So we have a few blocks away from us, a friend of my wife's who had just moved in here, probably towards the in the fall, beginning of fall, and she's handicapped, and she had said that she was snowed in, and asked if we could, if I could come out and plow her out. No problem, be happy to do it. So I got over there, and I noticed that there are 3 neighbors around her, and all of them, their driveways are all nice and clean, and you can see where, they actually had snow blowers, because you could see the tracks and everything, and all those people living around this older handicapped lady, not one of them could take the 10 minutes that it would take to plow out this lady's driveway and her walkway so she could get out to her car and stuff like that. And it just made me, just think, wow. Have we gotten, have people gotten to this point where they no longer care about each other, regardless of, if a person is in need or something like that? I'm just very thankful that I live where I do live, and that I have such good neighbors, and that we all kind of watch out and take care of each other, and we all share from our gardens and all that other stuff. But it just really made me kind of disheartened to see that, here's a I wouldn't say poor, but here's a handicapped lady who's hasn't been here very long, doesn't have anybody to help her out, and neighbors who obviously had powerful enough equipment to keep theirs clean and couldn't take a few minutes to clear her driveway out so she could get her car in and out. But it's just kind of an example of what we're seeing in the world today, and it's such a shame. It really is. But on the plus side, it did give me the opportunity to perform a mitzvah for somebody, which I was very happy to do. Not because had the chance, not just because I had the chance to do the mitzvah, but it gave me an excuse to get the tractor out and run down the road. So, and I actually put the tractor in fourth gear today, and man, I'll tell you what, that thing really flies in fourth gear. It just really surprised me. Anyway, let's get back to the Talmud here. Mishnah 5. Which courtyard is it which makes the produce liable to tithe? Rabbi Ishmael says the Tyrian yard with a lodge at the entrance. Tyrian. Tyrian yard. Okay. And I seem to remember seeing that in the Shulchan Aruch, which talks about how buildings are attached and stuff like that. Wherein watch is kept over the vessels. Rabbi Akiva says any yard which one person may open and another may shut as they please is exempt. Rabbi Nehemiah says any yard in which a man is not ashamed to eat is liable. That's interesting. That's an interesting take. Any yard in which a man is not ashamed to eat is liable. Rabbi Jose says any yard into which a person may enter and one does not say unto him, "What are you seeking?" is exempt. Rabbi Judah says, if there are 2 yards, one within the other, the inner one makes the produce liable to tithe, the outer one is exempt. Mishnah 6, roofs. Roofs do not render produce liable, even though they belong to a courtyard, which renders it liable. A gateway, portico, or balcony is considered in the same category as the courtyard to which they belong. If this makes produce liable to tithe, so do they. If it does not, they do not. Mishnah 7. Cone-shaped huts and stores in turrets and sheds in the field do not render produce liable. The lodge of Genesheret Gardens, even though it contains hand mill and poultry, does not render produce liable. For as for the potter's hut, the inner part renders produce liable, the outer part does not. Rabbi Jose says anything which is not both a summer and winter dwelling does not render produce liable to tithes. As regards the festival of booths, used on the festival, Rabbi Judah says, this also renders produce liable to tithe, But the sages say it does not. Okay. Mishna 8. I just want to see what's going on here. Yeah. That's right. Miriam says, good neighbors are worth their weight in gold. So she says, absolutely true, Miriam. They are worth more than that sometimes. I'll go along with that. I will definitely go along with that. Last year, those of you who've been with us for a while, last year, I was having a lot of health problems, and got a lot of help from the neighbors, especially during the winter time. It was wonderful, and it's a shame, it's a shame that we've kind of lost that. I mean, anybody who lives out in the country, like Miriam and Shoshi, both know that good neighbors are worth a lot because you depend on each other. If something happens, you're going to need those people, and if something happens to them, they also know that they may need you. So it's always a good thing. But you get into the cities, and people want mainly, stick to themselves. They don't want to, go out of their way, or their whole "it's not my business" kind of attitude. It's not make for a. It's not make for a good. It's not a good thing. Sochi, she's asked about the Festival of Booths. Yes, that's what they are referring to, is Sukkot. Okay, so let's see, where were we? We're talking about figs and other things. Okay, Mishnah 8. If a fig tree stood in a courtyard, a man may eat the figs from it singly and be exempt from tithes. But if he took 2 or more together, he is liable. Rabbi Shimon says, even if he has at one and the same time, one is in his right hand, one is in his left hand, and one is in his mouth, he is still exempt. If he ascended to the top of it, he may fill his bosom and eat. Okay, Mishnah 9. If a vine was planted in a courtyard, a man may take a whole cluster. Similarly with a pomegranate or a melon. So Rabbi Tarfon, Rabbi Akiva says he should pick single berries from the cluster, or split the pomegranate into slices, or cut slices of melon. If coriander was sown in the courtyard, he may pluck leaf by leaf and eat without tithing. But if he ate them together, he is liable to give tithe. Savory and hyssop and thyme, which are in the courtyard, if kept watch over, are liable to tithe. Mishnah 10. If a fig tree stood in a courtyard and overhung a garden, a man may eat after his customary fashion and be exempt from tithe. If, however, it stood in the garden and overhung the courtyard, a man may eat the figs singly and be exempt. But if he takes 2 or more together, he is liable to tithes. If it stood in the land of Israel and overhung the territory outside the land, or if it stood in the territory outside the land and overhung the land of Israel. In all these cases, the law is decided according to the position of the root. And as regards houses in walled cities, everything is decided according to the position of the root. Okay, so let's take a look at this. This follows the principle laid down that the branches always comply with the same conditions as the root, which is the source from which the tree grows. And I've heard that before, that however big the crown of the tree is, that's how big the root system is for most trees. So, if its tree is thin on one side and heavy on the other side, then obviously the roots are going in that direction also. Okay, as it regards cities of refuge, okay, these are the cities that Moshe set up. The cities of refuge where, the person who was had killed somebody, whether accidentally or intentionally, could flee. Everything is decided also according to the location of the branches. And also in what concerns Jerusalem, everything is also decided by the location of the branches. Okay. If there is a tree, the branch of which is within the area allocated to the city of refuge, and the root outside the area, as soon as the murderer reaches the root, although it is outside the area, the avenger of the blood may not kill him. Okay, and this all goes to the laws for the person who has killed somebody, whether accidentally or on purposely, until he actually reaches the city of refuge. The avenger of the blood can kill him without there being any guilt. But that's kind of a misnomer, okay? Because wherever he goes, wherever the person goes, the community is responsible to see that he passes through their area safely. Okay, so this avenger of the blood rarely happens, because the people are until he's tried, he is, again, it's just like, in our court system, he is considered innocent until proven guilty. He's fleeing to the city of refuge. Those people along the way are responsible to see that he makes it to the city of refuge, and the avenger of the blood does not happen very often. Okay, so where were we? Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Chapter 4. Keep an eye on the time here. We got about 10 minutes yet. In fact, I think we're going to stop right here. This is a good place to stop. Stop on the chapter. Always a good idea. Okay. So next week when we get together, we will pick up on this, if I can get it marked, and we will continue on at chapter 4. Okay. Catch up on the chat room here. Okay. Okay, so when we were talking about the crown of the tree and the root system and stuff, and Shlomo Shoshi says Shlomo is an arborist and says that it is absolutely true. As above, so below. Yeah, my sister's significant other is an arborist. He works for the state and for some of the cities and stuff like that, and that's where I had first heard that, and I was absolutely shocked because you look at some of these big trees and you look at how huge the canopy is on it, and you got how big the root system is. That's absolutely huge. Let's see. Yeah, and here we are back to the other one. John says, I think a lot of people are into Xbox 3 or 5 or whatever they are these days, rather spend time than with that or watching TV than with other people. Also sad. Yeah. Yes, it is. Okay. So we've got about 8 minutes left. I want to thank, first of all, all of you who have made donations to the Shul since we put up our donation link on our website, and Miriam for being the first one. She said, got a check in the mail, So we're the donations are trickling in. We're very happy to get whatever we get, and I hope you will, if you see some value in what we're doing, in the studies and so on and so forth, and please make a donation, and if you can, make a monthly donation if you're able to. If not, when you can and what you can is just fine with us. And tell others about us. See if we can get more people into the chat room. We actually got a good group in here. We had 10, but Daniel had to go to bed. So we're down to 9. But let's see if we can grow this. I mean, get more people involved in the studies and stuff. Get the word out. And whatever. Hope you'll return to be with us tomorrow. For myself and Zeta as we go through the Torah portion of the week. And I think until then, we will say Laila Tov.